Okay, we're recording. Welcome to High Fashion Sewing Machines in Grand Junction, Colorado. This is FTCU class for August 2020, and this particular month we have a new update that we'll be going through. Please follow along with me, but first I would like you to go to the Floriani Club. Usually it comes up, and I want you to watch the 5 or 6 update videos that pertain to this update. And Trevor Conquergood has these in the Floriani Club. I'm going to show you how to navigate there. So when you open up Floriani FTCU, this page comes up. I want you to sign in and go ahead and log in, and we are going to show you where to find these update videos. So here's your main screen. Right up here on the top we have tabs. So the tab that says updates, slide down and click on Floriani Embroidery Software, and this is where you can actually download the latest version of the software. And it also has the update videos. So right below here are the update videos. I also showed the class how to import and download the asset files. The asset files are the old Floriani thread chart and the new Floriani polyester thread chart. So follow these steps and you can download and import the new asset files. So what has come to us is the FTCU update, and each one of these videos, Trevor Conquergood will give you tips. So I want you to do this on your own. There's no sense of recording something that's already recording. So once you finish this, go ahead and watch the rest of my video. Alright, so I've given the class a USB stick with a picture of a butterfly on it. So we're going to use the new purple mountain icon called Photo to Stitches now. We're going to left click on that. It'll open up a dialog, and it actually goes to the last place you found your picture. So I'm going to bring in a JPEG picture of a butterfly, highlight it and hit open. And now here's the window of that picture. So this is a pretty little butterfly on a lilac bush. It'll default to a crop shape of a box. So if you want to crop the size of this down, you can crop it down using your handles on the size of the box. And I would also recommend checking the size, your width and height of your design. I've found working with something about 10 inches seems to put a good number of stitches in, a nice detail. Be careful, some of your iPhones will bring in something that's 72 inches across. I don't think we have a hoop or a frame quite big enough to embroider that. So change that. I'm going to change mine to 10 inches right now and hit enter. And it will keep your aspect ratio the same. So I'm going to be 10 inches in width. I cropped it down a little bit here. I'm going to leave all these the same. And I'm going to hit next.
Mine doesn't do this.
So we are having the computer change this to stitches for us. It takes just a few seconds.
I'm not sure.
And here is the representation of that picture in stitches. We can look at it. It'll default to 32 colors. If we wanted more or less colors, we could change it now. I like to click it to 3D view and see what it looks like in 3D view, and it looks pretty darn good when you click it to 3D view. You can change the thread palette here, so you can do a thread palette Floriani. I've imported the assets, so I have the thread palette of old. I would have to hit apply at this point. And it might change a color or two, so it's working on it. You have effects here. Once you could do color effect, you can do a gray scale effect, and once I've selected that, I would hit obviously hit apply. And then you also have properties. You have 2 stitch types, curvilinear and crossover. So I've played around with these. Once you hit one of them, hit apply, it'll give you an effect of what it's going to look like. It seems like the curvilinear is a little more detail, but each one has their their effects. Put it back to curvilinear. You can add a border here, either a stitch border or an applique border. But once we've played around with these, I've played around and I kind of like 2.2 or 2.5 of my stitch length, because if I shrink this design down to be 5 inches or so, it's going to give me a little more detail than 3.5 inch on the stitch length. So I'm going to hit apply. I kind of like this new tool because I've used other tools where it's taken a long time for it to populate the new stitches. This seems to be done in 10 or 15 seconds, which is not a bad amount of time to audition different things. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish here. And it's going to bring it into my workspace. It's going to be a big blue square. So all you have to do is click off to the side and make sure that it's what you like. So here's my big blue square. I'm going to left click on the workspace area, and that's what the rendition is what it's come up to, and it's in the stitches. I can come down over here to 3D and let it look in a 3D mode. Looks pretty nice, and I have stitched this out. It comes out really nice. With this size, we're at 125,480 stitches, so that's quite a bit of stitches. It's going to take you an hour or two to stitch it out. Now, I'm going off the menu here. This is something Trevor didn't show us, but let's select all, so you can get all your segments selected. And I like to hit Control A. I can tell all everything's selected because I have my tools around it and it's blue. And I'm coming up to this color wheel. This color wheel is called Color Play. Left click onto that. And whatever has been selected, it's going to let you play around with values of color and intensities. And if your picture came in a little dark, this is a good way to edit it right here on the FTCU software. So every time you click on lighten, it lightens it 1 or 2 values. It'll just keep lighten it down, and this may be the effect you want when you're stitching it out. Or you can back step by this step back per. Yeah, and I'm going to darken it a little bit. You can go to tint, and maybe you wanted more of a yellowy tint to it. So I'm going to hit a yellow tint, and it turned it to that. It's maybe not what I want. So I can backstep the history button here, and it goes back to the latest one. So it gives you another tool, especially to I think the lighten and darken parts of this. I'm not even going to attempt randomize.
Where's the back button?
See where it says history? It says step back.
Oh, yes.
You don't want to hit these buttons up here on the main tool. This is step back. So. Or you can just reset it down here to the very bottom. That was the original. I'm going to lighten it 1 time. And I'm going to click OK. Comes in a big blue box. I'm going to left click on the work area and see what we have. And again, at this point you can select the entire all segments. And you can resize it if you think that 9 inches is too large here. It might be a lot of stitches you want. And then you can click on each image, little segments here. So you got all your handles and all your tools there. Now I did find out when I was stitching this out that some of these reddish sort of areas I wanted to turn into orange on the wings of the butterfly. So I found that area, and Trevor showed me a nice little tool here. I'm going to go ahead and hit my select tool. I can actually turn off my properties box so I can see more of my segments right here. So I want this segment to show up.
Cool. That's awesome.
And if I changed that segment to orange, it also changed a lot of my lilac colors to orange. So I used the new tool of slow draw, and when it drew to the point where I was going to start drawing these orange areas, I hit stop up here. And then when it started coming back down into the lilac, I hit stop again. So that cut out an area only inside this wing that I could turn to a new shade of orange and make my butterfly have orange wings instead of the same color that was inside. I didn't know about this tool when I stitched it out, so when I was stitching, I watched the machine real close and stopped it, changed the thread, and then when it started stitching in the lilac again, I changed the thread back to the color that was in the lilac.
Did you notice that that it only shows stitches? It doesn't show, some fill or
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's interesting.
that's a good point to make. You cannot change any of these stitches to a different fill or to a motif fill or anything. This is the
Just
program.
stitches.
It's only stitches. It's not anything at this point that we can change. So that new stop tool, it's not stopping the stitching. It only stops a point and lets you change the color of the thread at that point. Whether you tell it what color it is or not, it'll stop. I mean, if you hit this by accident, you'll just have to hit the start key on your sewing machine more often than you would think.
Yeah, and
If
can
you
do
take
one-
that now, if you saved
one
it as
stitch
a
at a
WAV
time.
file, could you go in then and change the stitches?
Oh yeah, anything that's native you can change. Now, when this was slow drawing, it won't just slow draw. So I actually moved this off to the side. So when it was drawing, I could kind of tell this is supposed to be lilac-y colors or darker colors, and this is supposed to be the orange. So I started the slow draw until it started drawing that little section. So I'm still drawing. It's this section right here coming up. There's that section. So that's what's drawing right now, or was.
And you can do one stitch at a time.
Right. So I could slowly go, take my speed down. I could have it stitch backwards a little bit until I found it's going backwards now. Yeah, there's finally. And then I found the starting point, ending point of all these different areas, and I had to stop in just the right spot to tell the machine to make this part orange and this part whatever color was stitching in the lilac bush.
Okay.
Then once that was done, all stitching, I selected my select tool and I grabbed it and I put it back right in the exact spot it was supposed to be. And how do you find that spot? I'm wiggling all over trying to find it. It's right about there. It's going to move it over. Then I use my magnifying tool and I find a reference point somewhere here and I make it larger. And see, it's pretty close. I'm going to move it just, but I got to find my select tool here. Always have the right tool. And everything that is that bright blue is the color I want to move, and I can move it just a little bit while it's magnified. Now it's exactly the right place.
Cool.
So that's one way you can use this new stop tool to change colors that you don't want it to stitch. So that's our little butterfly. Everybody have fun playing with that?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you want to change the size, this one, I can tell it's, I can tell right up here at the very top bar that it is 29 colors. It's 9 inches by almost 8 inches. But if I wanted to stitch that out in 4 inches, I would hit Control A. I'd select the whole thing to get my handles. Takes it a second. There's a lot of resources being used. So once I get my handles, I can drag that size downward to make it something less than 100,000 stitches. Hopefully I caught all of, yeah, I did.
It's still the same number of stitches.
It didn't change.
it didn't
I didn't rechange the stitches, but it did rechange my size.
Okay.
And I could do a select all again, and I could go up here and do a color sort and entry sorts. So there's a lot of little enhancements or little cleanups you can do after you've got it
Okay,
figured
if you
out.
hold the control key down and change the size, does that redigitize it?
Never tried that. And if you do transform, I don't know if that changes it. But,
Okay.
maybe definitely when we do save the soul, it'll change certain things. So there we go with the new tool that is called Photo to Stitches. Now I also did one with a lot larger picture and played around with different masking on it and different types of cropping. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because my computer is starting to go a little slow. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one. I'm not going to save the changes. What I have on design number 3, nothing going on there, so I'm going to close him.
It
So-
doesn't tell you estimated stitch out time, does it?
No, it doesn't. Here's a picture that I cropped the very first time my daughter saw the beach, so we got to go see that picture. It's really cute. So we're going to go into pictures on the PC here. I think it's under pictures from my laptop. And here we go. So this is a huge picture. It is 45 inches by 34 inches.
Holy moly.
So that's a picture of a picture through my iPhone. So what I did is I just cropped down, got rid of the reflection out of there. So it might be fun to crop this in something like an oval.
Okay.
All right? And I'm going to grab the corner of the oval and bring that one in, bring this one in. She just loved waves. She
Oh,
thought
neat.
that was so fun. I bring it in a little bit this way, a little bit that way. So wouldn't that make a nice little cameo somewhere?
Yeah.
And it tells you the size I am right here. Well, 22 inches by 34 inches is still way too big. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to make that 12 inches and hit enter. And 6 by 9, that's going to be very workable for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next, see what we get. I still had red in my mustache. That was a few years ago. And I still liked Colorado Rockies. That was a long time ago. So not too bad. Look at all that detail it brought in, just first try. And that's without even changing any of our stitch length. Again, like I said, I like 2.25, and I'm just going to hit apply. And watch it change the detail on this. Think a little bit. See the detail on that?
There's more detail on your face now.
Yeah, and if that's what you want,
Nice.
it's going to add a lot of stitches, it's going to add density, but that might be what you want.
Yeah.
I like it just like that. I'm not going to change anything else.
I checked transformer and control, and it changes the size, but it doesn't change the stitch count.
Yeah, and I don't know if
It's
stitches.
probably this.
I don't know if the stitch count's actually changed or not. So,
Well, it didn't show it on the screen.
so now this one is 74,000 stitches. That's not too bad at all.
No.
You know, and I'm definitely going to save this one. I thought one turned
That
out
looks
really
nice.
cool. That's fast. That software
Oh,
just.
absolutely.
And I could see
Cool.
puppy dogs and kitty cats and
Uh-huh.
baby pictures, and everybody's got something in the back of their mind to go do.
Yep.
But give yourself a whole afternoon to stitch it out. Now, here's something you got to be aware of. This is a new match to palette option that's in here. So you can match it to an isochord, maybe that's the colors I have. And a lot of times you don't see hardly any difference because these companies, their colors are so close to the same. But I have a palette in here that's only 4 colors. It's Jeff's class chart. And it's 6 colors.
Yikes.
So I
It's
must
psychedelic.
and I want to change my palette. I'm going to change that back to flesh tones. Well,
Wow.
it only, instead of bringing it back to 29 or 30 colors, it only will change it back to 5 colors. So undo is our friend. So if you undo once, undo twice, I didn't lose anything.
Looks great.
So just be aware, if you have a custom palette that is only 5 or 6 colors in your palette, when you use it, it won't grow past that 5 or 6 colors once you've tried it. So you'll have to undo.
Fun.
And if you have made your own custom thread palette of all the threads you own, like you have 5 Florianis and you have 20 Isochords, you got 50 Madeiras, it will actually give you that color name and for the change every time it goes in.
Oh, wow.
I'm kind of an artsy-fartsy guy, so I never look at a color number. I look at the chip of, I would actually print this out. So right now, I could go to print, and it will print out a 8.5 by 11, but you want to go to your other pages.
Yeah, the other page has a color chart.
You've got color charts and color chips here. You print that out, and if your printer's pretty good, I might even print it out on a photo quality paper that's glossy, and that way you got color chips to kind of play and match with. So that nice little tool to have.
I go to the thread chart and then pick the colors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now
This is
how do I
better
get
'cause
out
I
of
can
this
see.
now? That's the original. Here's design 5. That's the one that.
Nice.
All right. So how do I get back to my? How do I get out of the print?
Say close.
I'm gonna go up here.
Oh, man.
Where the
Okay.
I don't know whether you X out of it or
I
not.
hit close right there.
close.
There we go.
That's why I have a great class here. Helps me out.
We help each other.
All right. So definitely, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna use the file save as because I want to put it in a certain place. I have embroidery designs. That's where I'm going to keep it. I'm going to call this. Whoops, Dad and Meg's each, and save. And it's going to save it according to my preferences. I'm going to save it as a WAF file so later I can edit it. Hasn't been converted to PES or anything else. So some wonderful tools. Have some fun. Do stitch some out. Plan an afternoon, stitch it out, because that's half the fun of it too, to see how well it turns out. And you may want to lighten it or darken it, but pretty fun tools. Now, another tool that was brought up is we can change the order of these stitches. So if you're stitching it out and you find out that this first stitch is covering up other stitches later, you can tell that to stitch last. I could tell it stitch last right there. Just put that color to the very end. Or I can tell it to stitch to the front again.
Well, and like
Or
on the
one time down at a time.
on the butterfly, I'd almost want the black. It stitches first. I'd almost want it stitching last.
Actually, it works better.
Does it?
I have actually done thread painting, and if you lay down the dark threads first, it works better.
Okay.
And then you can come back and add maybe some dark again later. But I found when I did thread painting, if I did the dark or the base first and worked my way up, put color on top. But there are times when you are doing outlines where there is not this shading involved, that you want that outline to do last so you can cover up some of those margins
Right.
and make them nice and sharp.
So when you did that butterfly, it did the black first?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's just, we can go right over here. It's kind of a good question. So it did the big black area first.
Right.
Did that whole area first. And that's what I did. Next time I stitch this out, it's going to be different because I was kind of auditioning, seeing what parts stitched by these little orders here. And I was dragging some up and down and seeing what would make sense to me on the color changes. And I actually did a color sort and it eliminated one or two of the colors because the same color stitched twice in 2 different times.
Okay.
And I watched where it was stitching and says, oh, it's not on top of something. So
All right.
kind of my mantra, you know, there's 2 types of embroiderers, those that sew a sample and those that wish they did.
Yeah.
I mean, investing, this was 88 minutes on the computer, on the sewing machine I did, so it was a lot more than that because when it's stitching and cutting every 4 millimeters, it's wiping the thread and wiping it, so it probably took 2 hours. So anyway, it was fun to see the results, so it turned out very well. And maybe I'll show the audience here, if I don't trip over the camera leg. So, there's the picture, and there is the stitch out.
Nice.
So I think it turned out very well. I'm very impressed with this tool, and thank you, Floriani, and all your developers out there, because we can use this and have some fun. Anything else I need to show at this point that I missed?
No, looks good.
Okay. Go ahead and please subscribe to Bernina Jeff on YouTube and keep watching my other videos. If you own a Bernina, I have about 15 really good videos on high-end Berninas, and also doing some on the baby locks on how to deal with bobbin case issues. Thank you very much.